What's up, Sheridan? My name is Matt Coffin.
And I'm Chelsea Osu, and it's International Women's Day.
That means that we have a show highlighting all the great things about women.
We're talking to people about Sophie Gregoire Trudeau's message for the day.
And we have Bella live on location for a red carpet event in honor of International Women's Day.
We also have all the usual news, entertainment, and sports you need.
But first, Chelsea sat down with the creator of the new app called Drive Her. Asha Addo shares why she feels it is important to have a ride service specifically for women.
What is a Drive Her service?
So Drive Her is a rideshare platform designed specifically for women, by women. And one of the reasons why a service like this came about was because of the number of attacks and violence that was happening against women in regular taxis and in other ride-sharing services. And we figured that if we're able to create a platform where women feel safe and empowered, it would be able to essentially change the way women relates to transportation.
So Beck Taxi Operations Manager Christine Hubert once said that she believed taxis are for everyone, regardless of whether they're driven by a man or a woman. Your service is just like any other taxi. What do you say to that?
I just think, one of the things that I always say to anyone that asks me that question is that we all need options. And, I'm going to use like a coffee shop analogy. When you go into a coffee shop, you have options. You have things that you choose. Like you have things that you want, right? So we do hope that all women use our service, but reality is that not all women will use our service. So the women that feel threatened or the women that feel uncomfortable in other services are more than welcome to use Drive Her.
So some people might see this as a step backwards, creating a form of segregation. How do you avoid that?
I believe that, the moment that you start creating something for a vulnerable sector, people always, bring up segregation and they always bring up sexism and all of that stuff. I just believe in creating an option for women, and it's not a matter of dividing or separating, the sexes. It's just a matter of giving women a voice and giving women a chance to choose, right? And not taking that option away from them and not taking that opportunity away from them. I think at the end of the day, they decide what they want to do, right? It's my safety and I should be able to determine how I want to get home. I don't think that should be based on any societal barriers or should be based on gender or anything like that. It's just that now I have an option as a woman to feel safer because there's something that was actually created for me.
Thank you so much for joining us today, Aisha. The Prime Minister's wife is facing criticism for a social media post. Sophie Gregoire Trudeau posted on Facebook in honor of International Women's Day, saying, "This week, as we mark International Women's Day, let's celebrate the boys and men in our lives who encourage us to be who we truly are, who treat girls and women with respect, and who aren't afraid to speak up in front of others." We sent Taylor Charette out to talk to students about her thoughts on Sophie Gregoire Trudeau's post.
It is pretty hard to ignore that today is International Women's Day. Just go onto Google or look at the trends on Twitter. While you're there, you may notice that Sophie Gregoire Trudeau is trending. The Prime Minister's wife is receiving some criticism after posting this picture with a caption encouraging women to celebrate the men in their lives and to use the hashtag Tomorrow in Hand to support gender equality. In the comments, many women said it was ironic to celebrate men on Women's Day and said they'd focus on spending time with the women who encourage them. Here at Sheridan, some female students agree with the commenters, and many of the males are just happy to be included in today's celebration.
It's kind of annoying. I'm not understanding why women can just have a day for themselves, but men are so dominant in today's society.
He's acknowledging that that's not just women's job to advance the women's cause, that to reinforce that that's something that is for any gender almost, across the spectrum of gender. So at first I was confused by it. That's what? Isn't that the opposite? Or but then I kind of sat with it a little bit and I realized that it does make sense, and that as a leader and a figurehead of within our country, that it's, and even in the international scene to some regard, that she's trying to acknowledge, or at least that's what I'm perceiving, is that she's trying to acknowledge that it's gonna need to be a joint effort that to create that true equality in the long run.
You went to ask me this question. I was like, okay, this is about International Women's Day. I'm not sure if I'm the right candidate for this. But after seeing that, I mean, it's really great to see that, even on this calendar-marked holiday, right, that they take time to appreciate the other half.
And as for #Tomorrow in Hand, it's become more about women.
Now we go to Bella Criscala at South Oakville Center for the red carpet event in honor of International Women's Day. Bella, tell us what they're doing to celebrate this day.
Hi, I'm here at the Oakville South Center where Halton's Women's Place is hosting an event called Sweets and Inspirations in honor of International Women's Day. And joining me to talk about this event is Dr. Linda Snyder. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for coming.
So do you mind telling us a little bit about the event and what's happening here today?
Well, this is just one event among many that are happening throughout the region and throughout the world. International Women's Day is a celebration of women's achievements and progress through the years. But it's also the recognition that we still have a ways to go. Nowhere in the world have women achieved economic, social, or political parity with men. And so we really want to bring attention to that this day so that we can have that in our consciousness every day moving forward.
And is this the first time that the Halton Women's Place has hosted an event like this?
We have actually hosted events every year, but this is the one that's the most sort of public and in the public's eye. International Women's Day is so much bigger this year than I've ever seen it. And I think that's because it's building off of the women's marches that have been happening all around the world, starting the day after the American inauguration. So yeah, we really want to bring more attention to that even more.
Something I noticed actually was this wall over to my right, and it has a bunch of different various women from the area. Do you mind telling me a little bit about the wall?
So these are all women who either are from Halton or have very strong ties to Halton and have made some achievement that's notable or newsworthy. We have musicians, athletes, actresses, artists, just about every industry is represented on these walls.
Is there a particular woman in your life who you look up to?
I actually would like to really recognize our executive director of the Women's Center of Halton, Martha Berrigan. When I first came on, we were quite a small operation. Today, we have grown so much. We are now moving into Milton and to Burlington as well. And a lot of that is due to our director's amazing energy and drive. And so she inspires me every day.
Well, thank you, Linda, for being here. And that's back for everything. Back to you guys in the studio.
Thanks, Bella. Now we're going to take a short break, but don't go anywhere.
When we come back, Tyler Hopkinson has your news update. Welcome back to Sup Sheridan.
Let's head over to Tyler Hopkinson with the news. Tyler?
Thanks, guys. More now on a deadly construction accident here in Oakville. A man has died at a residential construction site near Bronte Road. Halton Regional Police tells us a cement block fell over onto the man who was pronounced dead on the scene. The death is being treated as accidental. The Ministry of Labor has been called in to investigate. Police are working to notify the family. Today is International Women's Day. Organizers of charities and other events are asking women to wear red as a sign of solidarity. Women across the globe showed their support by attending rallies, marches, and events. In New York, in honor of International Women's Day, State Street Global Advisors, the asset management business of State Street Corporation, is calling on over 3,500 companies to increase the number of women on corporate boards. In conjunction with this call to action, State Street placed a bronze statue of a determined young girl staring down the sculpture, charging bull, a long-standing symbol of Wall Street. Though the statue is temporary, there is a push on social media to keep it as a permanent part of Wall Street. 338 young women representing every federal riding will take a seat in the House of Commons as part of an organization, Daughters of the Vote. Sheridan student Juliana Corso is one of the participants. This is the first time every seat in the House of Commons will be filled by a woman. Sheridan College will be honoring International Women's Day and National Engineering Month at the Davis campus tonight from approximately 5 to 8 tonight. The event will include Sheridan grads, a networking session, and a tour of Sheridan's Center for Advanced Manufacturing and Design Technologies. WikiLeaks has published thousands of secret files containing information about the CIA's hacking tools. Should the authenticity of the documents be confirmed, the leak would represent another breach for U.S. intelligence. This is not the first time WikiLeaks has released classified material containing information on the State Department and the Pentagon. At least 38 people are dead and more than 50 injured after an attack on a Kabul military hospital. 3 gunmen disguised as doctors entered the facility. The attack began with a suicide bombing at the rear of the complex. ISIS has claimed responsibility, according to a report by the ISIS-affiliated Amaq news agency. The search for the RCMP's next leader to take over for outgoing Commissioner Bob Paulson is underway. The change comes after growing mental health issues within the RCMP and Paulson announcing his retirement. Potential candidates for the job include Deputy Commissioner Guy Michaud, Deputy Commissioner Kevin Brousseau, and retired Deputy Commissioner Janice Armstrong. Frozen dessert brand Ben & Jerry's announced Tuesday it will begin selling cereal-flavored ice cream. The new breakfast-inspired treats will come in 3 different flavors. The new flavor inspirations are Frosted Flakes, Fruit Loops, and Cocoa Puffs. Each will be a blend of cereal bits and milk. The idea of cereal-flavored ice cream was inspired by Christina Tosi's team at Momofuku Milk Bar. That's all the stories I've got for you today. After the break, Jessica Palumbo talks entertainment, and Kevin Sackdalen has the latest in sports. Don't go anywhere.
Sup, Sheridan? We're back. We're going to head over to Jessica Palumbo.
She's got the rundown on your entertainment news. Jessica?
Actor Alec Baldwin says his days impersonating President Donald Trump on Saturday Night Live are numbered. Baldwin says the maliciousness of the White House has people worried, which is why he's not going to do it much longer. He says he doesn't know how much more people can take it. CBC's broadcast of the Tragically Hip's final show, The Amazing Race Canada, and CBC's The National all won awards at this year's Canadian Screen Awards. Last night also saw Peter Banbridge's last time hosting The National, and he referenced this when accepting the award for the Best National Newscast. He called the award a nice way to head out. Ed Sheeran just announced his 2017 North American tour dates. The musician announced on Twitter he will be hitting the road to support his newly released Divide album. Sheeran broke Spotify records, receiving over 56 million streams in the first 24 hours. Tickets will go on sale March 17th. Saturday Night Live member Pete Davidson wrote his fans on Instagram after being absent from social media and SNL. According to Davidson's post, he was sobering up. Davidson says it's nice to be back in action. Michael Rubinoff is the Associate Dean of Sheridan's Department of Visual and Performing Arts. The musical Come From Away started here at Sheridan with a student cast and is going to be premiering on Broadway. I spoke to him from New York earlier today. Thanks for joining us, Michael.
Great to be with you.
Could you tell me a quick synopsis of the musical?
Come From Away tells this incredible story when U.S. airspace was closed on 9/11. 38 planes landed in Gander, Newfoundland, a town of 9,000 people, and 7,000 people showed up in an instant. And these incredible people of Gander and the surrounding towns took these people in, housed them, clothed them, fed them, and it was an incredible outpouring of humanity and human kindness on a very dark day in history.
And what motivated you to come up with this concept?
I was really moved by this story when I read about it in the aftermath of the events. And as a theater producer who develops musicals, I felt it was a really compelling story. And I felt musicalizing it was compelling because music is such a part of the DNA of Newfoundlanders. It's how they tell their stories. And I thought it was a story that needed to be shared.
And what has the journey been like from this musical starting at Sheridan to now?
Well, it's been incredible. Written by Irene Sankoff and David Hine. We're so lucky that we got to work with them at the beginning to really develop this, to test out material, see how they could really tell 16,000 stories in about an hour and 40 minutes. So it was so great to have our students a part of that. The show's was optioned by Junkyard Dog Productions, Tony Award-winning producers. They've put together this incredible Broadway creative team led by Christopher Ashley. And this team, with just so much compassion and talent and heart and skill, have created a really groundbreaking piece of musical theater.
Given the current political climate, how do you anticipate the reaction from an American audience?
Well, certainly when we started this show, or they started writing the show, we couldn't imagine, of course, what the climate would be like now. I mean, this really is a story about refugees who were stranded and taken care of, issues of human kindness. And, New York, this is where these events happened. It happened to New Yorkers. And, to watch New Yorkers embrace the musical and tell us, we really needed to hear this story and we needed to hear it now, has just been such a wonderful thing to watch, and we feel very fortunate that they feel very strongly and emotionally connected to it.
Michael, thank you so much for joining us today.
Pleasure.
Come From Away premieres this Sunday on Broadway. That's all we have for entertainment updates today, so let's head over to Kevin with sports.
Thanks, Jessica. Speaking of putting on a show, the Leafs definitely did last night in their win over the Red Wings. The Leafs snapped their 5-game losing skid, defeating the Red Wings 3-2 with goals from Alexei Milchenko, James Van Riemsdyk, and Nazem Kadri. They now sit 1 point out of the final wildcard spot. The Buds are back in action Thursday night in a key game against the Philadelphia Flyers. In other Toronto sports news, the Toronto FC kick-started their season over the weekend. Earlier today, I got to speak to Charlie O'Connor-Clark, writer for Walking the Red on SB Nation, on all things TFC and what to expect from them this season.
Pretty simply, it's just to get back to that final and to win it this time. Mm-hmm. They're the most talented team in the league, I think, pretty substantially. So they should at least be looking to make another playoff run and to get at least close to there, because now that we've seen what it's like and how they're capable of getting there.
In order to make that playoff run, like you said, what improvements do you think they have to make from last season to this season?
Well, I think the main issue that they identified during the offseason was that they needed an attacking midfielder, which we may or may not see that they got in the transfer market this year. They got Victor Vasquez, who is still kind of coming up to match fitness. I guess we'll see if he's the answer they need. But in general, they've just needed just a little bit extra creativity in midfield, I think.
Being a Sheridan News show, I couldn't let you leave without asking you about Mo Babuli, who played for our Sheridan Bruins team. How do you think he fits in with the TFC personnel?
Well, I think currently when they have a full squad, he's not a regular starter, or he's kind of a sometimes bench player. But when I think he's actually going to be getting a lot of games this summer is just around July, when a whole bunch of Toronto's, especially strikers, you have Josie Altidore and Jordan Hamilton and a bunch of players going off to play in the Gold Cup for their national teams. And I think there's a really good chance that that Mo gets a lot of game time then in some really tough games around July. He had a few good moments last season, so I think he still has potential to crack this lineup.
All right, well, thanks for taking the time to do this. I really appreciate it.
No problem. Thank you.
Thanks. The Sheridan men's basketball team were at Centennial College over the weekend for the OCAA Championships. The Bruins took on the George Brown Huskies for the provincial championship. These two teams faced off just once in December, with the Bruins taking a 21-point win. But it was a tougher battle this time around. Dylan Periana opened the game up with a shot from the top of the key for 3 of his game-high 28 points. In the second quarter, Huskies forward Matthew Bukovic comes up with a steal on one end and finishes the fast break with a two-hander to give the Huskies a 2-point lead going into halftime. Fast forward to the late stages of the game, Huskies need a 3 to tie, and they get it courtesy of Kevon Moscow, who knocks it down over the outstretched arm of Nick Campbell. No timeouts remaining, the Bruins are forced to push the ball up the floor. Periana finds Brian Owusu in the corner, who leaves his shot short, but Periana corrals the rebound and gets the ball back to Owusu, who nails a second chance shot with 0.1 seconds remaining. Owusu, the Bruins, and the Double Blue fan base could taste the gold. Owusu shot just 4 of 17 from the field, but managed to nail the biggest shot of the game. With only 0.1 seconds left on the clock, the Huskies had no choice but to lob it to the rim and hope for a miracle, but they can't execute, giving the Bruins the OCAA championship. The Bruins will now move on to the Nationals in 2 weeks in Prince Edward Island. In other basketball news, the Raptors are back in action tonight against Anthony Davis and the New Orleans Pelicans. They've met just once this season, with the Raptors coming out on top in an overtime thriller. This will be the first time the Raps go up against the Twin Tower duo of Davis and DeMarcus Cousins, who was acquired by the Pelicans near the trade deadline. That's all the sports I have for you today. Stay tuned after the break for your weather and some weird news, including the tight relationship between a truck driver and his cat. You won't want to miss it.
What's up, Sheridan? My name is James Whiteman, and here's your weather forecast for this week, for today. Today we're going to be looking at a high of 9 degrees. Be careful though, because the temperature is looking to drop to around 2 degrees, high winds, chance of flurries. This weekend we're expecting some low temperatures, so don't put away your winter coats yet. Saturday and Sunday we're expected to drop down to a high of -5, so don't put away your winter coats anytime soon. Luckily, there's expected to be a mix of sun and cloud this weekend, so it won't be that bad. Starting Monday next week, I have some bad news. We're expected to get some more flurries on Monday and a light snow on Tuesday. The temperatures in the -5 range. So enjoy the good weather while it's here, because we won't be getting any more for a while. Thank you, Sheridan. I'm James Whiteman. Have a great day.
I took to the streets to ask people if they could complete some of Google's most common searches. Let's see how that went. How to twerk Like Miley. Have you ever wondered how many people around the world are on Google right now searching the exact same thing you are? If you think about it, Google is kind of like our best friend. It's always there when we need it, it completes our sentences, it even helps us learn an entire course in one night. I decided to do an experiment by using people as Google's search engine. I call this Google in real life.
I'm so terrible at playing basketball.
I'm terrible at cooking.
Communicating with others.
Not being blunt.
I'm terrible at French.
Everything.
I'm great at animating.
Eating.
Lion, which is weird.
Jumping.
I'm great at building things.
Not here.
I wish I was a mayor.
I wish I was a YouTube star.
I wish I was more smart.
More mature than I'm supposed to be.
Dying too young.
Not accomplishing things I want before I die.
Nothing. The dark.
Walking in the dark.
Myself.
Myself.
My wife.
I love my parents.
I love my mom and dad.
Our minds work the same, but it doesn't mean that they think the same. Instead of spending so much time behind our screens, we need to spend more time talking to each other. Because at the end of the day, we're all searching for something. So I guess I should ask you, what are you terrible at?
No, in the sporting world, it's definitely basketball. Never was my sport. And cooking, you know, unless it's like a Hot Pocket or something, like, just stay away.
I agree. I think I'd say cooking too. Not the greatest cooker out there, but I can make some craft dinner. I could microwave some stuff.
Like a bean mac and cheese?
Yeah.
Nice.
I could pop some stuff in the oven, you know?
It's like, I'll just stick to ordering out. It's easier.
Same.
Now it's time for weird news from the world. Our first story is from Minnesota. A long-haul driver thought he lost his traveling buddy when he couldn't find his cat after it jumped out of the window while he was sleeping. He looked for it when he woke up, but had to leave before finding the cat in order to make his shipping deadline. Much to his surprise, his furry friend was always with him. When he arrived at his destination a little over 650 kilometers away, the driver discovered the cat had been in the undercarriage of his truck the whole time. The two are now happily traveling together.
Our other story comes from an anonymous post made on Reddit. An adoptive mother of a 6-year-old was asking for advice when her child asked to legally change his name. The child is apparently named after furniture, but exactly what piece is unclear. The user used the pseudonym table when referring to the child in their post. After asking users for their opinion, the user seems to have decided on allowing the child to change their name, saying that if they regret it, they can change it back later. Well, Sheridan, that's all the time we have for our show today.
Be sure to check out the Sheridan Sun website for more stories. In honor of International Women's Day, I spoke to students around Sheridan to find out what women in their lives inspire them. Have a good week, everyone, and we'll see you next week.